How's it going, YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about recomping. So what a recomp really is that transition phase from coming out of a cut or bulk where you kind of just set off the side effects from getting super deep into the cut or getting super deep into the bulk, that being super depleted on the cut where you have like no testosterone, you
have a struggle pitching a tent,
you have no pumps, you just feel like a dried sponge, or being a chunky monkey on the bulk. My brother, I'm sorry to say, that's not water weight. And in fact, a lot of us get so focused on either going the bulking route, the cutting route, that we end up wanting to skip or omit the recomp altogether. But let me just slow you down and put you into perspective. In my opinion, the recomp is the best phase of training. You will offset all the negative side effects from that period where you are aggressively dieting down or up. You'll basically look a lot better quickly, feel a lot more functional. But to be honest, it probably makes a little bit more sense to recomp slower coming out of a cutting phase versus coming out of a bulking phase. And here's why. So if you've been dieting for a while and you feel like you're super shredded right now, but you have no size and your strength has plummeted, probably having a significant bump up for a good while will offset a lot of these negative side effects and almost instantly give you more energy for training. And coming out of a cutting situation, this could be really good because if you go from cutting super shredded straight into bulking calories, it's a good chance that a lot of those calories that you're consuming, especially if you're doing a dirty bulk, isn't going to be used for putting on muscle mass, isn't going to be used for training, and it's just going to be extra weight. And so you gain more fat, you don't look as good, and it's really not necessary. This is why you don't want to go deep into a cut into a huge bulk. And in all reality, a recomping phase is just a very slow caloric surplus coming out of a cut. And for a bulking context, all it really is taking a very slow deficit to lose some of that body weight in the form of water weight. And in the long run, you do have to either choose a bulking or cutting route if you want to maximize your progress. Now in this video, I specifically want to talk about coming out of a cut because a lot of you have been cutting for summer and a lot of you are probably pretty lean right now and you're thinking, shit, I don't want to get fat. I don't want to get all bulked up and throw away all the aesthetics just because you want to make some long-term progress. Like, there has to be something more. And that's exactly why the recomp is so good. If it feels wrong to just start stuffing your face after this cutting period, then it probably is wrong because there's a good chance that you can get a ton of progress out of this recomp for these three reasons so that you can keep your aesthetic as you start to go into a bulking phase. Reason number one, your training should change. When people say, hey man, in a cutting phase, you should always be dropping off training volume. And in a bulking phase, it's reverse. You should add volume. Now, aside from the obvious that people do not really understand about training volume is that for training volume, you have to have training intensity. That training variable is extremely important when you're cutting. It's super easy to have crazy training intensity for like 1 or 2 sets. But because of the lack of carbohydrates, lack of food overall, your energy levels are going to feel plummeted, your recovery is going to feel plummeted. So by default of not having enough calories, you have to train less hard. You only get a few windows to train close to failure or train with all intent before it just feels like junk volume. Now in a recomping phase, you could feel your body getting accustomed to these new calories and you might feel like you could take 1 or 2 more sets closer to failure. Now obviously you can take more sets to failure on a cutting phase, but they're junk volume sets. The difference is on this recomp set, you should feel like you could push somewhat with high intensity, somewhat with a pump, somewhat with feeling that muscle getting trained versus the contrary on a cut where it feels like a tendon workout. Now using myself as someone who's coming out of a cut, I do this by taking my cutting training planner and simply adding extra movements for that body part that I'm training for that day and testing the waters at what quality I'm able to train at. Because the reality is our recovery is constantly going up and down based on sleep quality, hormones, food intake, which is why it's a great opportunity to experiment to see what you're able to tolerate from a recovery standpoint when you're going back into a recomp with a set surplus calorie intake. Point number 2 at the recomp is to definitely keep up the cardio. Now this can be said with also the bulking phase, but a lot of people just stop doing cardio when they're done cutting because they associate cardio with negatively affecting their cardio output. Don't make this mistake. Cardio is extremely important for basic cardiovascular health, which can allow you to push at higher training intensities, recover better between sets, and be able to lift heavier for longer in a training session as you progress and gain muscle mass. And so that when you understand that gaining weight is a little bit straining on the heart, because hopefully you kept up with your cardio, you'll be able to tolerate it a little bit better. Also, in a recomping context, if there are calories sneaking into your diet that you're not really addressing, then it's great to make sure that this form of energy expenditure is balancing out those extra calories. Now, the third reason why you might want to do a recomp is because you're going to feel and probably look the best overall compared to when you're bulking or cutting. You might not have nearly as much shreds, your performance might take a little bit of a hit compared to your bulk state, But the recomp from a psychological standpoint, in my opinion, is the best phase to actually enjoy what you've built. You get some of the benefits left over of cutting, feeling lean from the cut yet a little bit fuller because you're eating more food, and you won't feel stuck like you're trying to run your wheels in the mud and stopping any future progress because you simply don't have enough calories in you. And truthfully said, you could stay in the recomping phase, which a lot of people just call it main gaining. There's nothing wrong with that, and if you're still making strength progress, I'd argue you're probably making a decent amount of progress in this phase anyway, making gains regardless. Hope this video inspired you to do a recomp. Like, subscribe, comment below. Peace.